Video games like Postal.
Going Postal.
Going Postal.
New video game. It's called Postal.
There are a lot of people that really wish we would go away, but it's never going to happen.
Their whole premise is so over the top. It's so ridiculous.
There was a video game called Postal. We just ran around shooting people.
Oh, this is gonna piss off your viewers, isn't it? Oh,
well. Going Postal, The Legacy Foretold, a new documentary about the history of running with scissors. It's finally coming out May 30th on Apple TV, Amazon, and Blu-ray. So mark your calendars and go to goingpostaldoc.com. That's goingpostaldoc.com and tell them In the Keep sent you.
It's going well. I did take a shower. I did eat breakfast, which is, I think, a majority of the battle. Maybe 90%, of the day.
Is that something that you like? Do you win that battle often? The breakfast and shower in the morning battle?
I mean, typically, I'm very much a workaholic. So, yeah. I mean, typically I have a whole thing there, but I recently just graduated from college, so now I'm kind of in a lull period, trying to get a job. So, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm not a college graduate.
You're not.
So you're leagues ahead of me. Like I've never eat breakfast, and I did not graduate from college. So you're like way ahead of me already. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I appreciate it. That's that's at like 1% better. That's crazy.
As a college graduate who's now looking for work, I have to ask, was it worth the 4 years of college?
Well, for me, it was.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the entertainment industry as a whole, I think, is very secretive. I was just talking with an advertising guy, and he was like, no, advertising is really easy. You do this, there's step-by-step process. You get through journalism or advertising, and then you go and you do $150,000 portfolio school, and then you get a job. And I think as an actor or a designer or someone in the entertainment industry, as a high school student, no one wants to tell you anything. Everyone just wants to keep things to themselves, act like there's a job scarcity when there really isn't. So I am very much a overachiever type person. So I was able to quickly, gain scholarships at my university and learn a lot and do a lot of things. And even though I don't have a job right now, I think that will change very soon.
No, that's cool. Like, I hated school. So when I started thinking about going to more school, it was a pretty easy no for me. Like, I remember the day, I guess it was my senior year of high school, where they're like, all right, everybody's gonna we're gonna go take the ACT and SAT today and all that shit. Yeah. And I just told my teacher, I am not going. And he's like, well, you have to. I'm like, I literally don't. I'm well within my rights to not get up and walk and get on a bus and go take this test. And I'll never, I don't hate this guy, but I've put him in my Rolodex of people who said I would fail at life, and then when I'm a millionaire, giving them a call just to let them know you were wrong. But he was like, you're just gonna be a flunky for the rest of your life, Mr. Crabtree. And he was wrong. I did okay. I didn't have to take this. It turns out you can, in fact, after you get out of high school, and work for a while, if you want to go back to college, they don't care about that unless you're trying to get into some specific program or whatever. But yeah, I needed to be in the military. I needed discipline, not free. If you'd given me the freedom of just go to school, but no one's gonna make you be here, I would have just fucked the whole thing up and wasted a bunch of my parents' money and
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well,
But no,
in
that's
high
cool.
school, it's
Yeah, go
crazy to
ahead.
know they in high school I where I'm the biggest high school in South Carolina at the time, 4,000 students.
Wow.
And they were all about, oh, you have to take these AP courses. You should be taking, dual enroll, all of these things. And then I actually, they go, screw 4.0 GPA. You need a 5.0 GPA if you want to, even look approachable. And then I went to a backup school and it just quickly, like, I was talking with valedictorians from schools with 30 kids, and all of a sudden, like, I mean, within the first week of being in college, I'm sure it was similar in the military. You kind of just grow up and your whole view of the world, I mean, just kind of gets so much bigger and you realize, like, oh shit. That's what I felt.
I just I looked around at, like, what my options were at the time, and,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I was, like, a reasonably intelligent kid. I had a lot of pressure on me to go to college, like, from elementary school. I was in, like, the Duke Tip program and all kinds of shit when I was, like, 8 or 9, I don't know, and all kinds of stuff, and I always had, like, people in my ear saying, like, "You're gonna be a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist or an engineer or a blah, 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 blah," and I was more of an artist type person, and I took an honest look at career paths, at, I don't know, 17 or 18 or whatever, and all of my favorite, like, people I looked up to had gone into the military and then gone on to be a famous artist. And I'm talking, like, Maynard from Tool, Johnny Cash, like, Elvis, like, just
Right.
they also all did lots of drugs and fucked their lives up, which, hey, um, but I'm just like, it just seemed like this is a good thing to do if you are going to go on to do something else that isn't conventional. At least you have that stability, and yeah, and then I didn't even join the military until I was like 20 years old. I just worked like regular jobs for 2 years, which I recommend to all people when they're young. Like, just get some like actual work experience. So you'll appreciate having a white collar job or at least a desk faring job if you go do like manual labor or some shit for a while first. And yeah, and you'll appreciate like the difference between a minimum wage gig and like even at the time, minimum wage was like $7.25. So
Right.
it's crazy now. Like when I think like people are like refusing to work at McDonald's for $15 or whatever, which I mean, I'm all for get paid whatever the fuck you can, but I'm just saying like literally more than twice as much as it was when
Right.
I was like 16. So
When I started at the scene shop, um, at my college, it was 7.25. Like, it's still like they had not updated their minimum wage. I guess. I guess when you pay students now it's much different. They start students at $9, but we started at 7.25. Um, and I mean we did, we were carpenters,
yep.
moving lumber all day, working on sets for shows, and all the good carpentry and hard labor stuff to make a production happen. And we were like, "Dang, man, I'm not working that much, and I'm only getting 7.25, but I love it. I love it. It's so good."
So I mean, like, what was your kind of upbringing like? What put you on the path of like I'm gonna go study acting or
Yeah,
all
yeah,
this other stagecraft and everything that you've done so far?
right. So, when I was a kid, I was really raised by my grandparents. Uh,
Hell yeah.
my my mom left me when I was about 12, and she kind my grandpa was a physicist. So at his university, his alma mater, he taught there. He got his PhD there, but he ended up working for the government as air traffic controller. And my grandma was in a similar kind of contract field. A lot of the Jeeps that were kind of used in the Iraq War um, in the kind of 2000s era, post 9/11, she was in charge of like getting the contracts for those Jeeps and for the outfitting, the modifications of those Jeeps. Um, and so I kind of looked at them and I was like, man, I should be a physicist. And then I started drawing a lot, and I went under the apprenticeship of a draftsman in town, and that was like elementary school. So I spent a couple years working that, and I did
Hold on, back up.
karate.
That sounded
Yeah.
like some I went under the apprenticeship of a draftsman. It sounds like you're from a different century. So
Yeah.
for the layman,
Well,
I think
okay.
I think apprenticeships are really cool. I want the world to
Yeah.
revert to the guild system. Like I'm having this
Sure.
I'm having these conversations early about my kid and with my wife, like
Mhm.
how I think the world ought to be or whatever. But like, so what? First of all, what is a
Sure.
draftsman, and what was the process
yeah.
of the
Yeah, yeah.
apprenticeship like to become a draftsman?
No, it was very simple. Uh, and it was like lessons to apprenticeship. So it's very kind of modern thing. There was a guy in town. He was an illustrator, animator, draftsman, meaning architectural design on pen and paper plus CAD stuff. So computer aided, 3D modeling and all that. And I started doing lessons under him, and then I just kept doing lessons, and some of my works that I would do, and I really only did like value-based drawings. So draftsmen will render for architecture firms. This is old stuff. Everything's computer aided now, but back in the day, people would have giant drafts tables, and they would draft their cars and their all of their designs in black and white, and then plate them out for the actual technical guys to go out and execute their stuff. So when I was in, I don't know, ninth grade, no, not even ninth, when I was like fifth grade even, I started working with this guy. And he featured me in a couple galleries and stuff, and that was really cool. But then I was like, okay, I want to do karate. So then I did karate.
How old were you when that transition took place?
Um, Probably 10, maybe
Okay.
even around the same time. Maybe
It-
8 or 9.
That's an odd age to have an apprenticeship, but a good age to start martial arts. Like I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I did that for 3 years, and I almost got black belt. And then
What
I
style
started
of karate did you do?
Wado-ryu,
All
which
right.
is kind of in the Shotokan range. But
Mm.
one time I met a Wado-ryu guy like on the street for no reason. Like there was just a guy in a gi, which is the karate get up. And I saw him in the uniform, and I said, "Hey man, what do you practice?" And he said, "Oh, Wado-ryu." I was like, "Yeah, I love Wado-ryu. I practiced Shotokan karate, for so long." And he was like, "Wado-ryu is not Shotokan. It is absolutely not." And I was like, "Okay, okay."
I was a Shotokan karate
Yeah.
practitioner as a teenager too. So
Mhm.
I do not have I have a healthy respect for all forms of martial arts in one way or another. But
Mhm.
I mean, were you learning to break people's arms and knees backwards and stuff doing Wado-ryu?
No, Wado-ryu is all
Yeah.
kata, simple
Yeah.
sets. And then,
Yeah.
but we did have a guy who would do that shit.
Yeah, I mean that's like the whole mantra of Shotokan for all the nerds
Yeah.
out there. It's like you're every move you make is a break. Every single move you do is you're supposed to be like physically breaking an arm or leg
Interesting.
or a knockout. Like every punch is supposed to be a knockout. Every block is a simultaneous like snap backwards of an elbow and all. It's a little bit pretentious because in practicality, it's kind of like I understand why you want to do this, but if you just do your kata and you fucking walk out into the real world expecting to be a lethal weapon, um, the knockout game really isn't bad. Like if you just put all of your energy into one solid punch straight to the noggin, that's a good
Right.
practice. You get tired quickly too, but yeah, that's
Well,
awesome, man. It's actually a cool thing that you started when you were 10. You did it for 3 years. So
yeah, and I almost got black belt. I was on like the last test before black
Mm.
belt. But Waterloo is actually very similar.
Mm.
But the way I was taught was that everything is like a kill strike. Even your most basic block is uh, in the advantation of killing someone. The-
Everything you do should be
yeah,
ideally to incapacitate one person.
sure.
So, like, when you go, no, we're not on camera, but you go to do just like a basic block. It's a two-handed motion, so that that person doesn't get back
Right.
up and like it's supposed to be like a Bruce Lee movie, like
Yeah.
every single fucking thing. Um, okay,
Yeah. And we would take days where we would just sit there and be like, okay, think of your very first kata you learned the very first day of Waterloo training. I want you to imagine for an hour all the ways you could kill someone with just that first move. And I was like, bro, I'm 11. You know, it was pretty, and I was like, I'm teaching 4-year-olds this shit. um, anyway, it was, so that was fun. But then in kind of my last months before black belt, I really started doing theater. And the first show I ever auditioned for, I got the lead role. I had like a 5-minute monologue, and I didn't realize you were supposed to memorize your lines. So it was like 2 weeks to the show, and I was like, "Where's the cue cards, guys?" And they were like, no cue cards." I was like, "It's not like SNL," and they were like, "No."
That's,
Um, so yeah.
what was the first play you did?
It was, so I did it in 8th grade, and in the kind of theater world, there is a bunch of works. A huge deal is licensing. So if you wanna do, like, a real play that won a Pulitzer or something, you're gonna be paying close to $300 just to do one performance. So, a lot of low budget, educational companies, um, I'll they will go to the educational publishers, and they'll let you do it for like $25 a performance. The shows are really bad. So like we did a show called Hoodie, and it was all about, puberty. I mean, there was a whole scene where a guy's supposed to come out and under his shirt is supposed to be a giant, you know, rectangular box of cardboard, and he comes into school and he's like, "Guys, what's up, guys?" And everyone's like, "You look like a fucking piece of cardboard." And he's like, "Oh, things are changing." Anyway,
Yeah.
so that was kind of the gist of that play. Um, and so I had a very, I would say I was the lead role in that. And then, as I got into high school and I started doing all these student film projects and being leads in all the plays and everything, it was just, before I had a car, it was impossible to go and do Waterloo. So I kind of stopped my training at that.
That's okay. It's just like a crazy like twists and turns, but I think that's good when you're like a teenager. Is like when you just try a bunch of different shit, see what sticks. The the first play I was ever in, I think I was in the 3rd grade, and I was in like I don't know if they had it in South Carolina. We had a program called PACE, where it's just
Mhm.
like basically every Thursday, anybody over like 120 IQ got shipped to a different school for special ed. Literally, they're like, "Yeah, we don't want you in here mucking up the regular kids' good day." So all you nerds are gonna go to like a different school and like take a special class on every week or whatever. And so like part of the program was like we had to like every year write and perform our own play and then like compete with all the other classes in the state. So we did Helen of Troy,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
which was, I mean, basically like a shortened version of the Iliad and Odyssey or whatever, but a 3rd grader's performance of that. And I played Hector, like, who's in the story, like the giant that Achilles is able to just like knock down in a single blow or whatever. But yeah, it was
Right.
fun.
Right. Right.
I kept doing that through elementary. I really liked theater. Like I was like super into it. But
Mhm.
then like, there was no program really for that in middle and high school. So it just kind of like went by the wayside. But yeah, I kind of wish I had been more exposed to that kind of stuff as a kid.
I think a lot of kids deserve to be exposed to it. In
Mm.
South Carolina, in my county, Charleston County, we had what was called SAIL, which was very similar to PACE. You know, all these stupid ass acronyms.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, once a week, you would go off, and we would have to do intricate, anatomical drawings of sea creatures and shit. We would eat
Yeah.
squid, and yeah, which was fun. I think it was good that I did it. I think it's, we could get into the politics and the racism of those programs. I think, I think it's weird that most of those programs have only white kids. But at least where I came from, there was kind of a obvious thing. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I've later in my career, kind of a year ago, I went on a big Shakespeare tour to a bunch of really low, almost no funding, or they didn't even have a theater program, middle, elementary, and high schools. And we just did a quick Shakespeare show, and it really the goal of it was not to be Shakespeare. The goal of it was to take Shakespeare's words and make it fun for kids,
Mm.
and make it weird. So I would crawl through the audience and stuff while I was trying to be Romeo, looking for Juliet and stuff. We would do crazy stuff.
I think
And
Romeo and Juliet is a really heavy play for kids to do. Like,
they shouldn't read it.
honestly, like,
Maybe not.
it's such a classic, and it's even like represented in cartoons and everything. And I'm not against Romeo and Juliet, but I mean, like, a romance about a young couple that ends in a double fucking suicide. Well, like that.
Yeah.
It just gives me the wrong impression of like what we shouldn't be teaching this. Teenagers especially are like too vulnerable to this.
Well, it's for me, it's how deep the literary stuff
Mm.
goes, because the
Yeah.
play starts off by talking about star-crossed lovers, and then through like every monologue, like Romeo has a big, huge monologue
Mm.
where he's talking about Juliet on the balcony. And when you're a kid and read it, you're like, oh, he's just talking about Juliet. But as I analyzed it, I realized that he is taking William Shakespeare took the metaphor of like stars and lovers to the nth degree. Like he was like, okay, the he's talking about if Juliet's eyes were inside two stars and two stars were inside Juliet's eyes, there would be no sun, because Juliet's eyes would be so beautiful and bright that they would light up the world on their own. And it's like that is a metaphor that I don't even think the English teachers, give a shit about. So
I mean, it's beautiful and all that, but it's also like you're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Whatever happened to the good old days when computer role-playing games spent more time telling great stories than stressing you out with season passes and needless grinding? Call of Ragnar is our effort to bring back the best in RPGs. Play in the immersive world as two friends adventure into a murder mystery that lands them in the middle of a battle between gods. Head over to callofsaregnar.com. That's call of SAREGNAR.com for more info. And be sure to wishlist on Steam. I mean, it is a tragedy, but it's really unhealthy, I think, for a teenage boy or girl to like be thinking in those terms. Like, it's too much. Like,
yeah,
you have a whole life ahead of you, kids. There's gonna be lots of these.
Right.
There's gonna be lots of girls that you think eyes could light up the whole room and all that shit, and then you realize she's a psycho or whatever. It's
right. Well, I
but no.
think the good thing is that most people, most teachers teach it so terribly that a
Mm.
lot of the kids who would be affected, I think, by the themes, they just shoo it off. Who gives a shit? It's just Romeo and Juliet. I know they killed themselves. Who cares?
Yeah. So, but you were like going through, did you do a lot of different Shakespeare stuff, or was that just kind of like a one-off? Or
So for that show,
yeah,
in general, I have done several Shakespeare shows, but for that show, teaching it to kids, it was more about story. Um, so there is a book, I'm blanking on the name right now, but there's so many books, Save the Cat. It's a huge story book, but there was a book and it gave a structure that's really easy to follow for every single story that you could break down. It's like, once upon a time, there was a blank. Every day that blank did blank until blank. From then on, blank had to do this, then this blank, then this blank. And ever since then, blank felt different. Or so, it was that kind of um, structure. So what we would do is we'd bring a whiteboard and we would write out this structure and we would ask kids their favorite Disney movie. And then we would act out their Disney movie like real fast. Like once upon a time, Nemo was a fish, whatever.
yeah,
And then, excuse me, we would go and uh, show them Shakespeare stories that were similar. So
right.
almost every Shakespeare uses like the same basic Greek stuff. So we did Two Gentlemen of Verona, we did Midsummer Night's Dream, Romeo and Juliet, and Hamlet. And Romeo and Juliet is just the Greek story of Pyramus and Thisbe, which
Mhm.
Pyramus and Thisbe is a play in a play inside of Midsummer Night's Dream. And then the main themes there are repeated in Two Gentlemen of Verona. So you see there already 4 of the plays that we have picked are basically telling the same story 4 different times. So and I don't even know if the kids got this, but it was just kind of trying to show like it's not every story is the same, guys. It's just how you tell it. So and the kids typically liked it. I mean, we were really lighthearted and that stuff. So I think it was a good tour. It was fun. We got to go to like 10 different schools all around South Carolina.
That's cool.
And yeah, and we would do workshops afterwards and Q&As, and the kids were always really interested and after seeing how crazy we were being, a lot of kids who um, you know, maybe were jocks or maybe were, kind of like you were saying, the goth kid didn't want to ever go. All these kids in these workshops, started to really open up, that was really awesome to see.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think I did it so early that like a lot of the people who really liked it as kids then went on to go into their high school factions of like this is cool, this is not cool, and then it's like a weird kind of transition. Whereas like I think the stereotypical kind of redemption story is like I don't know the football guy who realizes he's vulnerable and wants to be a
Yeah,
performer or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and
Oh,
like
yeah.
but his dad doesn't like it. That's a whole
Yeah.
stereotype in its own. But yeah, I think it's cool to learn Shakespeare young though because then you sort of see it everywhere. Like you can't watch any movie without like, oh, this is just that. This is just Hamlet. This is just Macbeth. This is just Othello. This is I don't know, King Lear, and it's just never ending kind of thing. But all of those archetypes of the different stories that were told do find their way back to the ancient Greek theater. It's
Right.
something I wish I'd studied more. I got really into that, like the history of ancient Greece podcast, and they went on and on and on about the how important the theater was to society at large for ancient Greece. Um, and that tradition
Yeah,
just seemed to hold true.
the coolest part is that the Greeks and the Romans, we have like 30% of their plays, not even. Almost all of their plays, every single year, they did a festival where they
Mm.
showed like 20 plays. We only have the winners of like 4 years, you know? So, I mean, that's like that's like saying 2,000 years from now, we're going to show people Moonlight, Titanic, and Star Wars. And that's what they're going to think of like our civilization. And they're going to be like, huh.
But I really love the archetypal theater. Like, eh, as you are well aware, like I'm a huge pro wrestling nerd, and it's the same fucking thing. Like
Right.
it's just taking every story you could possibly tell, and then just telling it in the context of a four-sided wrestling ring. But you keep recycling the same things over and over and over again. And it's always going to be like good versus evil or like betrayal and it could be just ideally you can tell an entire story, in 10 minutes in a wrestling match that you could otherwise would have to write an entire play to do. And some people are like genuinely really thoughtful about that. Like if you
Yeah.
go and watch some of the even the trashier WWE stuff, like it's clear that the writers were like, okay, this is an opportunity to tell that story. Like let's go for this. And then in the serial of it, when they have time to like build it up, do it over and over and over again, or like take two characters and like give the bad guy the ability to just drag it on forever so that you have this big burst of emotion when the good guy finally wins. It's really, really cool to see like the different ways that people will interpret these stories and not on the surface at least recognize that it's just the same drama that they've seen
Yeah.
before. And back, in the old days when they were like genuinely like living by Carney rules and everyone had to pretend it was 100% real and like kick someone's ass if they implied that it wasn't and all that stuff.
Right.
They had the territories and they would like, you and me would have a match that we did in Charleston. And then the next week we'd be in Atlanta, and the next week we'd be in Florida, somewhere in like Jacksonville or whatever. And the next week we'd be in Montgomery, and we would do exactly the same thing we did wherever we were until we had it perfected, and then record it for TV, and then rinse and repeat.
Right.
And like the sort of like traveling theater lifestyle of it is really interesting, and that's all just directly, tied to the mummers lifestyle of like, not ancient Europe, but medieval Europe. And then
Yeah,
the Renaissance and all that stuff too.
I don't think enough people, especially wrestling. I mean, I have only gotten into wrestling huge over the past year, but I've gotten really deep. And I think exactly what you're saying. It almost, I mean, all of these lifestyles, traveling musician, traveling, wrestler, traveling actor, can be taken all the way back, as you're saying, to this kind of dark ages European traveling theater mindset, where they bring the set. The set is on a rolling cart. The rolling cart folds open, and they give a show in 10 minutes. And it's at the beginning of the show, they tell you the entirety of the show, and then you figure out if, as an audience member, you want to sit there for the next 10 to 20 minutes. And all of that stuff is I mean, wrestling especially, I think it's kind of obvious that there's so many amazing athletes in WWE, but why do we all love the old guys who are kind of failing at being athletes? Because they're such great storytellers. Why do I love CM Punk? He's amazing on the mic, and when he gets into the ring, he tells a story in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour,
And he's not a particularly amazing athlete by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
So
absolutely
he was my
not.
hero as a teenager. Like when I was 16, CM Punk could have ran my mother over with a car and I would have collapsed. Like, like huge fan. I had my hair dyed blonde like he did when he was in Ring of Honor. And the first day of wrestling training, I showed up, and then like the dude just looks at me and he's like, "Yeah, you're one of those CM Punk marks. There's another one of you over there. You guys can be a tag team." And I was so into him. But yes, because he's an amazing storyteller. Like same thing with Stone Cold Steve Austin was an incredible athlete, but he was injured and then he had to like kind of compromise his style to make up for that. But he made up for it with all of the elaborate storytelling that he did. The Rock, horrendous wrestler, like terrible wrestler. But he had some great matches because like the storytelling part of it was really big. But I mean, like ask the dude to do a fucking regular arm drag or just
No.
throw a punch. He looks like jelly, and no one cares.
I mean, I think we're
there's this-
seeing that right now.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead. What you saying?
there's this old mantra, and I think this applies to more than just wrestling. It's just like any performance field at all. But they would rate people on a 30-point system. I think Bret Hart came up with this.
Okay.
Where it's like you get 10 points for charisma, 10 points for your look, and 10 points for your in-ring ability.
Mhm.
Like technical ability, whatever that is. And then you get ranked somewhere out of 30. And like Hulk Hogan was a solid 20, and that's all it took. He was
Right.
he looked incredible. He talked incredible. And he couldn't wrestle his way out of a fucking wet paper bag. That didn't matter as long as, you had someone who could work with him. And the same thing applies to a lot of the great guys. Like John Cena, like to give him his due, is like a 5 on the charisma scale, in my opinion. I think he's he looks tremendous. I mean, obviously he looks amazing, and he can't wrestle worth a fuck unless he's with a great technical wrestler, and then they can really like bring something out of him. But like for a long time, he was kind of just stuck in that rut of like doing literally the same 5-move combo. And I mean, when you see him do the shoulder tackle and then the second shoulder tackle and then the spin out power bomb and then the look around and the 5-knuckle shuffle and all that shit. And then, the attitude adjustments come in. And like part of that is what's so amazing about wrestling is that you like think about how stupid a 5-knuckle shuffle is or
Yeah.
people's elbow. But the crowd is going fucking apeshit crazy and it's like a Pavlovian response. Like you may not realize it, but the moment you see the first shoulder tackle out of the rest of that move combo, you're already getting juiced up for it. And that's like the fundamental thing about wrestling. Like when you start really like learning it, if you have someone who's a good trainer, like that's the first thing they want to talk about is like you have to you literally just have to like ring a bell and get them to salivate. That's what you want. And all of the great people, I shouldn't say the greatest. All of the people who are like really big stars have something like that. Randy Orton is another example where he does about 7 moves, and all 7 of his moves look fantastic. But if you ask him to do something that's not in that routine, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what I was going to say earlier is Cena, like current Cena right now.
Best thing
Backlash.
ever. Oh my god.
Did you like Backlash 25?
Yeah, why not? It was amazing.
Well, okay, I loved Orton, right? The minute he started, giving the cutter to every single person, it was fantastic. But Cena still, I mean, he did like 10 attitude adjustments in that match. I mean, he really, all he can do now, he is so like old. All he can do is attitude adjustments, 5-knuckle shuffles, and shoulder tackles. Those are his 3 only moves,
I assure you that, like, let's just say he was in the ring with Bryan Danielson or Punk or someone like that.
Yeah.
He would do a lot more because they would pull more out of him. But also, this is just my analysis, and I'm a real fucking nerd about this stuff. So, like, just tell me to shut up if I get to be too much. But he's doing that on purpose. Like, he knows you think that. They know you think that. And he's a heel. And the best way to get you to hate it, because there's, like, so many different layers of the heel babyface spectrum now.
Yeah, exactly.
In order for him to truly get you to hate him, he's got to break the 4th wall of hatred. So you don't hate him because you think he's genuinely evil. You're an adult. You know he's not Santa Claus. But if you know he's being lazy, now you hate him worse. And that's been going on for 15 years, I think, where he would openly mock the fact that the crowd made fun of him for not doing a lot of moves. Like, you want to see me do a Hurricane Rana or whatever? Like, and he would land on his head doing the Hurricane Rana. It's like, I don't doubt he could do it, but he knows that you'll get pissed off if you see him like fuck it up. So like now with this John Cena heel run is the greatest thing that has happened to me, other than the birth of my child, in a long, long time.
Wow.
I thought I was gonna soak my pants when he like when he and The Rock made eye contact and I knew it was gonna happen. I'm like,
Yeah.
there is a God. Like this is the best thing since fucking sliced bread, man. My wife didn't understand what was happening when I reacted to it, and I was like running around my living room like a fucking stupid imbecile. Like,
Yeah.
he's gonna turn evil. Finally, I've been begging for go back to like 2013 or some shit when he and Punk were feuding, and it was just like, why won't he do something other than just this? And it all built up to that moment. So in a way, they played us for 20 years. Like
Right.
they had me on the I want John Cena turn bad. So even though I'm supposed to hate him now, this is the best thing I've ever seen him do. And
Yeah.
I'm watching him do the same things you're talking about, but when I'm seeing him do it, I'm like, oh, that's so smart. Oh, what a genius. It might not it could not even be that well thought out, but like I see him like get like go to lock up and then just not do anything and roll out of the ring and just waste time for 5 minutes and not even wrestle, and I'm like, genius. Oh man, he's so good at getting me to hate him right now. I just want to kiss him.
It's the truth, but I want to believe it. I want to believe so bad that they are so smart that they are, because his new entrance with the black and white is so perfect, and his promos have been so good. But the whole fact, like, and maybe they're just too good. But the fact that The Rock didn't show up at Mania, and then The Rock is saying all this stuff online, and The Rock said everything's a work, so maybe everything really is a work.
It
But
is.
the fact that The Rock didn't show up, the fact that The Rock is saying, I have problems with Mania, how Mania went, it's like, okay, but when is he going to show it? I don't know. It feels to me like they compromised Mania, which feels a little sacrilegious to me.
Nah, they're playing you. I promise you. It's gonna have a payoff later. Like if Vince McMahon were still in charge, this is gonna be like a long wrestling segment, but that's okay. If Vince McMahon were still in charge, I would assume they fucked everything up. Like I would bet the writers had like a 20-year arc, and then every Monday Vince would come in and change everything and derail all their plans and whatever. But with Triple H and The Rock in charge, ostensibly, I genuinely believe that they won't drop the ball on these kinds of things. So yeah, The Rock doing all this stuff, saying I had problems with it or whatever, that's a word. At 100%. You ever watch Dark Side of the Ring? The documentary series?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they do this stuff to each other. They like work the boy. I've seen this even at like small scale stuff, like just very small wrestling companies. Like people, it's almost like method acting in a strange way. Like you will have wrestlers who will get so deep into their character that they forget that they're a real person, and then they just start living. We say like living the gimmick. And I don't think John Cena is I don't think that he has fallen for that. I genuinely believe that he's like going through the process of like what he's had 20 years to figure it out. Like what is the best thing I could do to make every wrestling fan hate me beyond oblivion? And that it turns out it's to fake the lockup, roll out of the ring, and not wrestle.
Yeah.
That's the best wrestling move in the world if you're a bad guy.
Yeah. It's I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of like he's making it work. I really believe that he's just not as good athletically as he was, a couple years ago, which is crazy when you look at Orton, because I feel like Orton is just an absolute beast in the ring. I mean, he looks beautiful. He wrestles beautiful. I mean,
he's graceful.
He talks beautiful.
He's like a
very
gazelle.
graceful. Yeah, or a panther. I mean, I mean, he is really awesome. The whole KO thing is so sad, but whatever.
Yeah, so Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are like those two guys that I've literally been watching them since they were Kevin Steen and El Generico, like
Yeah,
wrestling
yeah.
in high school gyms and shit. And then like I remember when they showed up in NXT, and I was like, oh my god, finally, and then here we are 15 years later, and we're still having that. Man, those guys are never gonna win a fucking belt, are they?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I genuinely think that they will both get their comeuppance. It was like 2 years ago. Sami Zayn was like really hot. It was when he was in the middle of the bloodline angle,
Right.
and he was like the honorary Uso or whatever the
Yeah,
fuck. And
Sammy
a lot of
Uso, yeah.
people thought that was gonna be his like moment. Like the crowd was super, super into him, and then all the Vince McMahon shit blew up, and I think that back and forth kind of muddled their ability to
Yeah.
take risks. But I like the direction now with Triple H in charge, because he is making a constant effort to kind of like recognize talent and bring people up to the forefront that are capable, but would have never gotten that shot under like the McMahon kind of helm.
Yeah.
There's so many people who like were, I thought, potential all-time great right, like WrestleMania main eventer material that just never got a proper chance. There was
Right.
believe it or not, there was a moment, probably 2011 or some shit, where I could have seen The Miz and Dolph Ziggler growing up to be the main event of WrestleMania, and they just neither of them ever got put into that spotlight. And I don't think The Miz minds, but I think Dolph Ziggler minded. I think he could have done a lot.
Yeah. I really love this whole all in, I think when you look at the timeline of events with Cody, I mean, it is so like heartwarming, to see him fuck off and then, do
Stardust.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Goldust, I love Stardust, but to see him be like, man, I'm done, and then work his way back, man, that New Japan run from like 2014, with
yeah, dude.
Finn, and then all through Cody, and then AJ in New Japan. Come on, bro. Come on. I do think AJ is being a lot of talent, I think, is being squandered right now. I think they have to weed out, some people on the roster, but AJ, I wish he would have an actual good match.
I think it was cool to have AJ work Logan Paul.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not saying AJ Styles can't still have 10-star matches or whatever, but he's old as fuck. Like AJ Styles is a walking corpse in the world of wrestling. And the fact that he's still agile and everything is amazing and everything. But I think he's in the phase of his career is like, what else is there for me to do other than to help younger talent look great? Logan Paul is a fucking, like, I don't know. I didn't really know them outside of like celebrity boxing before he showed up. And I know that a lot of people think that they're assholes, and that may very well be true, but that dude is like the fastest transition from not a wrestler to really solid wrestler since Kurt Angle. Like he just took to it like a duck to water. He's really good. And having him work with all this like great talent. I mean, obviously they want him for the celebrity factor, but like he has good matches. Like putting him with Mysterio, putting him with AJ Styles. He's going to be challenging for I don't know when this will come out, but he's going to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso on Saturday night's main event. And they're obviously trying to build him up. And I think AJ can do whatever he wants. It's kind of like, not right now, but like a few years ago, it was like working with John Cena. It's like, it doesn't matter if he loses because people are still going to love him no matter what. Like, so if AJ Styles wants to have another title run and they decide to do it, he could do it. And it wouldn't matter that he lost to Logan Paul or whatever. Like, no one's even going to bring it up.
Right. I thought Logan versus LA Knight at SummerSlam was honestly one of the best matches. I mean, I was there at SummerSlam, so I was feeling it a little differently. But I love LA Knight, man. I think he's just so good.
He's like also, like we were saying, graceful, but like everything that he does is just effortless looking. When he does the jumping from the second to the top rope to the elbow drop combo, like He's very, very, very smooth. He's buttery.
Mhm.
He has some of the best entrance music I think in wrestling history too, man. So he's got that like Knight Rider thing going on, like the retro wave
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
He's an interesting one. I don't know where his like career arc will take him. Like I feel like his character needs to evolve some, but I mean he's got time. He's young, so
Well, actually, he's only 3 years younger than Orton. He's in his 40s.
genuinely,
Yeah.
L.A.
Yeah.
Knight. Hold on,
Yeah,
I
he did
believe you.
he
Need to see this for myself.
yeah, that's why it's so crazy right now is
Holy
Cena
shit!
Cena
Yeah,
is 48, AJ Styles is 47, LA Knight's 42, Damian Priest is 42. We have a lot of old talent right now. So
fucking Orange Cassidy's like 45 or some shit.
yeah.
Yeah. I had no idea LA Knight was like an older gentleman. I didn't know him from the indie scene or anything like that.
Yeah, no, he took a long time on he's very much like a modern DDP, not
Yeah.
really hitting it till his 30s and a little later.
Yeah, like
Um,
DDP didn't even like start training until he was 35 or something like that.
Yeah, insane. But actually, well, people this is a thing we might get into later with acting. But DDP in his 20s, like 25, was going to work for WCW and was like training, but then decided to like go off and run a bar or whatever.
Yeah, he was in the
Uh,
nightclub business. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then he came back 10 years later and obviously it blew up.
yeah.
So he still had some of that training, and I would be interested in like if there were photos of him in the nightclub era to see like how much he kept that, kind of body mass and everything, or if he had it.
Yeah, he
But
was
yeah,
always like a bigger dude in general, but I don't know if he
right.
was like brushing weights. I think, but I mean, a lot of people in that Miami scene were probably, pumping some iron. Look,
Yeah.
at the time in wrestling, it wasn't really about like athletic muscle mass. It was about looking gigantic.
Yeah, definitely.
So the the steroid era and all that stuff. But you're listening to KEEP in the Keep. If you love this show and you love supporting indie video games, please take a moment to check out In the Keep's upcoming Stellar Valkyrie. Built in the GZ Doom engine, this retro first-person shooter puts you in the universe of space bird bounty hunter Falco, who is on a mission to save his ex-girlfriend from the evil Black Star cult. Just type birdgame.space, that's BIRD game.space into your browser. Hit enter, smash the wishlist button, and stay tuned.
Right.
DDP taught me how to do yoga, man. I had the full DVD set and everything.
You
That's
got
like-
it? DDP
Yeah.
Yoga? That's what's
Oh,
up,
yeah.
man.
Big fan. Like I had a back injury like as a teenager, and then
Mhm.
my doctors were just like, yeah, you're just gonna have like horrible arthritis when you're older. So I was trying to combat that. I got into the DDP, the Yoga for Regular Guys DVD
Yeah.
set, man, where he wakes up in his bedroom and he's like, hey, gonna take you guys up to my room. Don't tell my girl. Ladies, if you want to hold back the hands of time, squeeze those glutes. Like, I
Yeah.
was 100%
Yeah.
into that shit, man. It was awesome.
No, DDP I over the past year watching some of those DVDs and watching his series, Jake the Snake, Return of Jake the Snake, and everything that DDP has done. I love how I bet you I'd love to have a conversation with him because philosophically he must be so zen and interesting in those ways. But the fact that he is smart enough to take the jocular, muscular things you're saying, tits and ass, muscles, all this shit, and somehow convince these guys to like do yoga and not fuck their lives up it's like good work.
Yeah, he's like
nice
he's
job.
like a toxic masculinity, like double agent almost. Like
Literally.
the way that he's managed to get, basically Eastern medicine into the minds of like the most not likely to try it kind of people, me included, to be honest. He's genius, and I have to commit. He's a class act, dude. I mean, even
Truly.
showing up for the Hall of Fame induction ceremony this a few weeks ago, like he didn't have to do that. He was the second choice, and Sting didn't want to do it and all that stuff, but he just
Yeah.
did it like a man. And I don't think there's anybody that's got a bad word to say about him. I'd love to interview you, DDP, if you ever hear this. But
Yeah, man, DDP is the GOAT. I was interesting. I wondered why Luger wasn't on that big lineup on the WrestleMania stage. Maybe he just wasn't fit enough to, or they couldn't figure out how to get uh, his wheelchair up on stage. But I was a little confused about that.
so like it's actually odd for you to. How old are you now? 24?
23.
23. Yeah, it's a weird time to start getting into wrestling. So
Yeah, but I mean, we might talk about this too, but like I'm very much I mean, I hate to say it this way because it sounds so pretentious and bullshitty, but I'm an intellectual in terms of like everything. This great illustrator, Katsuya Terada and Hajime Soriyama, and this other guy, Rockin' Jelly Bean, they did a 3-book erotica. Like, it's basically pornography, but basically they just drew the most beautiful, like, crazy cyberpunk pornography ever. And a lot of people might think that that is like disgusting or whatever, but I mean, I have read books, literal like 300-page essays on all this stuff. I have written essays on this stuff. So to me, like nothing is off topic in terms of analysis and analysis and
analysis. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a Freudian slip.
analysis. Yeah, think about it. Um, but I think nothing is off topic. I love analyzing everything, and I think wrestling is, uh, I think it's like the Grey's Anatomy for live theater. All these people talk about soaps and Grey's Anatomy and like how they're able to watch these things and turn their brains off. And I think that wrestling is just another facet of that in the entertainment world that not enough people, I think, give it its due, and it deserves it.
It's still the most popular sport literally in the world.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
soccer probably is number one, and then wrestling is more than the Super Bowl, more than NFL, more than NBA, more than MLB, more than cricket, like whatever the fuck's popular
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
It's like it transcends mediums, and that's what I like. From a business standpoint, it's always way ahead of the curve. Like they had the WWE streaming exclusively on an app
Right.
way before all the fucking cable channels caught on to it, way before ESPN caught on to it. Like it was just, they're always innovating. It's basically porn. I mean, genuinely like the porn industry where they, like the first people in will be, where there's a new technology or a new region or market that opens up. The first two things in are pro wrestling and pornography.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
Uh,
It's crazy.
yeah. Like, even in the video game industry, I've brought up so many times in so many meetings where like, man, we should be like really looking at Saudi Arabia and India. And then I would be told like, that's dumb. I'm like, why is that dumb? Well, people in India don't have computers. I'm like, that's the most retarded fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, they don't like the same kind of stuff we do or whatever. I'm like, it's literally because you didn't translate the game into Hindi. If you did and you made it available in their market, they would buy it. And there's like 1 billion people in India with money and they want
Yep.
entertainment. So you should be marketing this game to Indian people because they're people and whatever. But in the Arabic world and all that stuff too is like, and then WWE goes to India, they go to Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, okay, what else do you need? Then they start doing shows in Europe. NFL starts doing shows in Europe. NFL is going to start doing shit in the Middle East. You're probably going to do shit in India too. And I'm going to sit there and be like, I was told you guys, and I'm not a prophet. Vince McMahon is a prophet. he's also a terrible person, but he made some good calls business wise. That's okay. What
It's yeah.
from a okay, so did other than in school, like how did you continue to do active theater work and stuff like as a part-time kind of like extracurricular job?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in high school, I once again did another apprenticeship type thing
Okay.
with a local theater company, our local, probably our largest professional theater company in Charleston. I got a sound design apprenticeship there, and then so I was doing that in high school, and then also in high school I started working for a local um, children's theater company. And so in addition to acting there and taking classes there, I was also I helped out with the lighting, I helped out with projection design, sound design, which then when I got into college and those became, all of that started butting up against each other. It made it that much easier because I had all of those experiences.
That's awesome. Like did you know when you enrolled in school like what direction you wanted to go, or did it take you some time to like figure it out? Or
I mean, I always knew theater acting. This is how I'll phrase it. Acting gives me life. Going up in front of a microphone, going up on stage, getting in front of a camera, and acting is maybe the most rewarding thing that I can do as a person. So when I started, applying for Juilliard and all the big schools, and I got a couple callbacks from DePaul and NYU and stuff. I didn't get in. It was like, okay, where can I go? So when I went to this children's theater group, the main person there who got me in, she said, "Hey, I'm also a professor at this college. Do you want to come to this college?" So I said, sure. So I went, and then immediately it was like, okay, I'm acting in a play. I'm lighting, designing this. I'm being asked to do this. I'm a carpenter. I'm an electrician. And I just kind of fell into it all.
Mm.
But I mean, once again, people might say, oh, I just fell into this and then I was able to have this amazing resume. But I took 4 years in high school and was always doing something theater related. So by the time I got to college and they were looking, they had a, fluke thing where they needed carpenters. I knew how to do that stuff. They had a fluke thing where they needed electricians. I knew how to do that stuff. They had a fluke thing where they needed anyone who had a basic knowledge of anything in the entertainment industry. I was able to do that, in regards to theater. So then throughout college, I just kind of honed everything and worked on everything. I was able to go to Japan and do performance there, work on a show there for 3 months, in addition to lighting the show and kind of being an art director, technical director. So I mean, I would say one of the greatest things I've done, and maybe one of the worst things, maybe why I don't have a job right now, is that I don't enjoy total specialization. I'm just a jack of all trades guy,
no, they'll find a use for you, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure of that. But I think it's really, really smart to just like be the guy who can show up and work no matter what the thing is. Like being in a rock band, if you
Mhm.
only play the guitar, that's great and all, but like, what if we need a drummer? Or like, what if we need a bass player? What if we need a singer? Like, if you could just show up and go to work, that's always useful. And probably at some point, you'll find your groove and you'll be able to just decide what you want to do. I
Yeah.
am guilty of basically the same thing. I think I just always kind of had I don't know, some other form of making money along the way, and then I was just like, and I'm gonna dedicate all of my free time to this thing that I like. But even getting into video games, like I took a programming class, and then I took another programming class, and what I learned was I hate programming. Thank you. And so I was not gonna do that. And then
Yeah.
be a level designer? I'm like, no, I've never even opened up a fucking level editor in my life, and I kind of hold that as like a point of pride. Like I'm not doing that
That's
because I don't
hilarious.
want to. Like I know I don't want to do that. It's
Sure.
I have so much respect for what it takes to be a great level designer, and I know I'm not doing it. Like what I like is the storytelling part of it. Like I like writing, and I also like being the like kind of fulcrum of a team. Like
Mhm.
that's same way as you. Like just adapting all like getting all these other skills from different places and then applying it to the new thing that you're doing. Like everything that I learned in the military about leadership applies in the business world.
Mhm.
All of it. And except for like discipline, which I'm not allowed to like make people pick up cigarette butts in the parking lot anymore, but I mean, whatever. Um and then
Yeah.
when I went to go apply for a job, yeah, for video games or whatever, I didn't really have to apply, but like when I was talking to people about like what am I going to do when I move into this? Like what experience do you have? I'm like, well, I own a video game company and I was a staff sergeant in the Air Force. And the guy was like, well, how does that really qualify you to be a producer for a video game? I'm like, I promise you, if you give me any group of people and a goal, I will make them do it. I'm good at that. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's weather forecasting for the Air Force or if it's some kind of like exercise we have, I don't care. If the goal is finish a video game, I just need to know what the tools are to do that. Like it wasn't a transition of like my skills needed to change. I just needed to like get familiar with things like uh I don't know, Unity or fucking I don't even know half the names of them because that didn't matter either. Ultimately, I just needed to know that there was somebody who knew what that was.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so like I didn't know what a I can't even think of it. I'm a total fraud. I've exposed myself.
Yeah. Fraudulent. Fraudulent
Yeah.
alert. Fraud alert.
Yeah.
You ever played
That
Dive Kick?
is that what's that?
Dive Kick is a 2-button fighting game,
Hell
and
yeah.
all there is jump and kick, and
Okay.
it's fantastic.
So you're
And
just Johnny
what you
Cage.
saying? Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's Johnny Cage parody characters and stuff. And anyway, in Dive Kick, if you press the buttons before the start of the round, it says fraud alert, and you get a giant thing that says fraud over the screen. Anyway, it just reminded me of that. You should check out Dive Kick. It's really awesome. Always on sale.
Oh, we'll put it in the show notes. People go buy that, and then also wishlist Stellar Valkyrie and Caller Ragnar, and
Yeah,
like
all those.
leave a 5-star review on your listening platform of choice, and smash that subscribe button. And
Smash it. Pulverize it.
yeah, so like doing all kinds of different stuff, like doing the carpentry, stage lighting, actually performing and stuff. Like, do you feel like you know what you would like to do? Like, if you just had you got to make the decisions and you had all the money in the world, like what would you want to do at that time?
Yeah, so if I really could just like, yeah, win the lottery big, huge,
Mm.
just be able to produce, I think I would make giant multimedia projects that were kind of mixing both experiential and visual arts. I mean, a huge thing for me is like 9 Inch Nails. 9 Inch Nails is kind of a project I have loved so much. Uh,
Everyone with autism loves
artistically.
9 Inch Nails.
Well, well,
Yeah.
undiagnosed
Oh.
here.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that them and I think 9 Inch Nails is kind of similar to WWE in terms of they're able to take something like experimental art, industrial art, and bring it to the masses. And then when you go back and trace the roots to these experimental artists anywhere in the world and look at their galleries, you know, look at performance art, um, it's all incredibly interesting. And I think a lot of people maybe don't consider it real art at a certain point. You know, they're like, oh, this is weird, you know, or, you know, the classic, you know, I can draw what Picasso drew. My 3-year-old can draw what Picasso drew. But at the same time, it's like, well, you need to consider it as actually being art. And if you actually experience it, then that would be awesome. So kind of if I had all the money in the world, I would produce and perform and have a hand. But I would also similar to you, I love leading a team. And in any kind of situation I'm put in, I kind of always rise to the top in at least a leadership role. Maybe it's not an experience role or a talent role, but I'm always kind of becoming a leader of a team. And so I love collaborating, and I loved my college career because I had to work with a collaborator who was absolutely trash at everything, and he was a total dick. And working with this guy kind of made me realize how much I love collaboration because anytime I wasn't working with him, I was having a lot more fun, So it kind of told me all these little things. So if I had all the money, I would probably do pseudo political, interesting, experimental art where people could go and they could, touch people's shirts and it would be activating a Google form that someone else on the other side of the venue could be playing a video game and then, a picture of their face would pop, I mean, just crazy shit. I love that stuff, man.
That's yeah. The logistics of projects like that are what I find so like interesting. Like
Mhm.
I don't know that I would want to lead that project, but what I would want to do is have like you as the creative genius and then me as the all right, let's figure out how to actually pull this off and the
Right.
practicalities of it. But, like I think of like Rob Zombie when he,
Mhm.
would do these like Halloween maze, like giant festival things and stuff like that. Like just the design and effort and the teamwork that goes into like taking someone's like insane idea and making it into a reality that you can actually interface with is like so fascinating. Um,
Truly, I mean, look at Disney. I'm not a okay, maybe I'll get a job with Disney, so I won't say anything. But you look at Disney and the fact that they're able to coordinate all this stuff for their live events while in the same building, making sure that the marketing art direction is the same for when they push a Mandalorian thing, and a lot of it comes from, several sources, but I think you can look at, uh, and this might be a little maybe I'm being a little too, kind of going everywhere right now, but that's just kinda how my brain works. But, like, look at Marathon right now. Like, Bungie's Marathon has such a epic, cool, um, maybe not epic, but this kind of Y2K, I don't even know what you would call it. They have some weird name for it. But their new art direction for Marathon is so cool and so, like, genius and different for the first person shooter space. So, taking that art direction and finding a way to seep it into marketing, into cinematics into the video game itself is such a monumental but awesome task, I think. And I mean that stuff just really is interesting to me.
I I find it so crazy like how one of the things that I like about the games industry is that it sort of calls for every trade and cinema does too in like a different way. Well, I guess in just a less interactive way. Like you don't need a fucking programmer to make it something that you need to interface with necessarily,
Right,
unless you're
right.
doing Bandersnatch, which I would argue is a game.
I
But
I would say too.
yeah, but like you basically you need like architects, you need people who under like writers, you need people who can act, you need people who can uh make a computer do whatever the fuck you want it to do. You need everything to make a game, basically. And the more elaborate the game, the more it calls for. You see you look at the credits for something like Baldur's Gate, and
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
yeah, like the credits are longer than the fucking Constitution, and
Exactly.
and I just love that. I love. I don't necessarily like working with really big teams because I think it
Mhm.
just gets lost in delegation. But regardless, like you have all of these people who are like experts in their field who otherwise probably wouldn't be collaborating and they have to come together to make something happen. So your idea of having, like some strange where like giant civic center size interactive world for people to mess around with is interesting. With like augmented and virtual reality stuff too go a long way with that.
Totally.
Is that something you've experimented with at all?
Yeah, I just want to touch on your thing real quick.
Yeah, of course.
Baldur's Gate. One of the things that I love about the gaming industry, kind of like we were talking with pornography and pro wrestling, is when well, I guess this is just the entertainment industry, why I love working in it, is innovation. And Larian Studios, I'm sure other studios have done this before, but I was listening to an interview with Sven, the main, director guy, directed Baldur's Gate, all that stuff. He was talking about, he has a studio in the UK, he has a studio in the Netherlands, he has a studio in Eastern Asia, he has a studio in Canada. He said 24 hours, there is never a time when their game is not being worked on. Their game is always being worked on 24/7. And when I heard that put into words, I was like, wow, like that is such an innovative idea. Like, and all the logistics of like, okay, how do we make sure what we finish in the Netherlands is ready for Thailand, is ready for Quebec, and Ubisoft and all these other places, do it too. But I like Larian's games more. And the fact that they're able to, come together is amazing.
The trouble with having a schedule like that is that you need to have like military precision about how you handle it. Like,
Sure,
a lot of, I have experienced this. A lot of game studios want to be that way and have like these international teams and shit like that. And then quite frankly, they don't have like the discipline in place to pull it off because especially during COVID time frame, like, oh, you can work whenever you want. You can sleep whenever you want. Just, make sure you get your task done or whatever. And it's like, okay, but like I'm at the control center on Monday morning at 8:00 and that's when decisions get made. And then dealing with people's feelings too, like, well, how come this decision got made and I wasn't informed? It's like, you weren't at the fucking meeting. That's why. And I can't make if you're in Australia, I can't make the fucking, like, Australia or not Australia, New Zealand is exactly 12 hours off of Europe. Like if you're in Central European time. So if your lead programmer is in fucking Auckland and your artist is in, I don't know, the Philippines and everyone has to just kind of agree on when they're going to have discussions. And if you're really good at delegating, and Larian, I'm sure, has a strong sense. Just looking at their credits, I can tell they're more organized about this than most companies. Like, this is the lead guy of this department. So when you're having a sprint meeting or some shit like that, I don't need to talk to 200 people. I don't want to talk to 200 people, and 200 people don't want to listen to me. I've seen this happen like so many times. It frustrated me to no end. Where it's like a Discord call. Not too dissimilar from the one we're in now, but with literally just shitloads of people in it. And, the teacher, or not the teacher, God, the producer is talking to these people in Japanese and the rest of the people are just sitting there waiting for them to be done. And then he's like, okay, and that, and I'm like, why don't we just like have the lead artist, maybe the lead 2D and the lead 3D artist or whatever, and the UI team and the programming team, everyone just have like one person who's the king of that hill. They can do whatever is convenient for the people on their team, have their time together, and then just kind of like let the shit roll downhill. So you and I can talk on Monday, and then you will delegate to your team, and then next Monday we'll meet back up and we'll discuss what progress you made, that kind of thing. But it's actually way harder than it sounds to get people to interface with. So you're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Please take a moment to tell at least one other person how much you enjoy the show. That's right. Grab that link and send it to that buddy you're thinking of who you know would be interested in what we're talking about right now. Maybe post it somewhere. I know it seems scary, but you can do it. I believe in you. Don't hesitate to leave a comment and a 5-star review, a like, wherever you're listening. And if you want, Patreon supporters for this show get episodes early, access to our secret Discord channel, chances to suggest questions to our guests, our games, and whatever else I can do for you. Every little bit helps. This podcast directly supports my ability to do what I love and take care of my growing family. The link is in the show notes. Thank you, bless you, stay in the keep. With Larry and having a 24-hour work schedule, I mean, I'm sure that there's just like a Sven talks to the heads of each individual studio, and then they, down the hierarchy chart all the way to, the QA kid who's just sitting there trying to break the game. But that kid doesn't need to be in the fucking big boy meeting. No offense to him, it's just a waste of his fucking time. And
I once heard a theater professional say, I think she worked for Kennedy Center before Trump was there, and she said, I do my art at the beginning of the day. I then have 5 meetings, 4 of which could have been a 3-sentence email, and I wish that they would have been. That way I only have that one meeting instead of these 5 stupid meetings.
Yep.
And one of the cool things about my college career was I was able to work in a design collective, and we had our own studio, and we were able to pin stuff on the wall, and we were able to work on 4 different projects on the same time with all of us working together. And what you learn very quickly is this person forgot to send this email. This person forgot to do that. And this person did not hit the deadline, and it's now 2 weeks past. I love that I was able to have that experience in college, because it just shows me I was able to fail there. You know what I mean? It was able to be in an educational environment where it felt so terrible and like I was going to die because I failed and I missed that deadline. And I also wasn't a good leader over here. And my design wasn't good over here. But now that I'm going into the, working environment as whatever, I think I'll be definitely more, I don't want to say dominant because that has bad qualifications to it, but I think dominant in how I, think about these large group manifestations, like you're saying, because it is incredibly difficult, even with 20 people, to try and get everyone together and get everyone to read their fucking email and get everyone to agree on just one, this line needs to be 45 degrees instead of, 180 degrees.
Europeans really gravitate towards the quote flat hierarchy system where they're like, everyone has an equal say and we can all talk about it. And that's really cool up to about 12 people. and then once you break that threshold, it's like, okay, no, somebody has to be the chef in this kitchen. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like somebody has to be able to we all have to agree on this is what we're going to do. Because especially when you're playing with other people's money, you have to think about every moment that goes, like that hour long, that 5 meetings that girl has to be in, right? Is over time hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of someone else's money that just got squandered on we couldn't get our shit together. And that's really what makes me never want to touch the AAA game industry ever again. I hate the stress of that.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I can't do it, because you can't get everyone to agree this is what we should do. So running my own company is a lot better because I could just be more laissez-faire about it. Stakes are a lot lower. This game costs $6,000. I really don't care if it takes a long time or whatever. When you're $7 million in a fucking hole with a project, and then there's corporate people saying where's our game and we want our money back and all this kind of stuff, and then you're trying to, I feel like Moses in the desert with the Hebrews, just if you guys would all just shut up and do it, to follow the 10 rules, we wouldn't have this problem,
I got them written down.
I got it's right here. Just and then Uncle Jethro is like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be holding court every day, all day long. Why don't you just get the leaders of the tribes to handle their own tribes, man? And Yeah, but that's a story older than time, I guess.
Literally.
Learning how to deal with large groups of people. It's gonna be the greatest human achievement if we can pull it off. uh,
Yeah, yeah.
it's interesting hearing you talk about like having the space to fail in school, and I think that's super awesome. Like I, when I was 22 years old, was just sat down in front of a computer with about maybe a year's worth of training. They're like, all right, well, here's 3 military bases and the weather, and it's your job to issue the warning 30 minutes ahead of time. And if you fuck up, billions of dollars of government money will be squandered, people will die, and it will be your fault. So don't fuck up. See you in a while. And there's a lot of pressure. Um, I wish I'd had more space to fit. They truly do give you those like training environment. Even if you're a fighter pilot, they put you in a fake VR jet or whatever before you do it. But
Right.
it's like once it's real, and it's not.
Mhm.
It's not like it's not the same as like, oh, what if I don't ship my game on time? I had an amazing conversation with this guy who's like one of the head of global publishing or some shit like that at Saber Interactive. His name's Brad Dowan. And we got along really well because he's former Navy guy. He's like geospatial intelligence or some shit like that. But me and him would kind of bond over like people would be so stressed out. Like, I'm stressed out about this game and it's just too many hours and like all this stuff. And me and him were like, it's not fucking warfare. It's like no one's gonna die. It's okay.
True,
Like,
true.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's like it's not like anyone's gonna fucking get their head blown off for this. So it's all right. It'll be okay, guys. But I do kind of wish in a way that I'd had those opportunities to just like go all the way to the end of something without having to fully face the consequences. See what that's like.
Well, I'll tell you, it didn't feel like that while I was doing. I now that I've graduated, I can analyze, look back.
Mm.
I realize now I maybe should have taken some more risks. Where I do think I am a risk taker. I think I took a lot of risks. I think a lot of them pay off. But the stress at the time is so high in the design collective that I was a part of that I didn't realize I had the room to fail until really now, until after the fact, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But I think it's good because you can look back and see that kind of stuff. A lot of grad school for theater designers is you just go and for 3 years you design like a mad person. Just design. This show, this show, this show, this show. Maybe you're assisting someone on Broadway. You're doing something here. And I think it's a lot more of that. Okay, let's push this as far as we can go. Let's try and fail some more. But it's not like, let's try, I might be explaining it like it's a nurturing environment, Oh, you can fail. It's okay, man. You're all cool. But it's not really like that. It's more like, you fucked up. Fuck you, by the way. I'm going to take away your scholarship. It's that type of thing. But you're right. It is definitely not, warfare. It is not Ender's Game where I just killed, 250,000 people because I thought I was playing a video game,
But even in the weather, it would be really easy to just kind of like get disconnected from the fact that there's like people and assets on the other end of the stick because you're just sitting in a room with a computer most of the time. And then, and like I remember this one day we're all sitting there and it's like, oh, I guess a tornado is going to hit Wyoming, today. Cheyenne Air Force Base, like neat.
Yeah.
Oh God, I didn't get the lead time on that warning, guys. I hope they're okay. No big deal. And everybody's like laughing and shit. And then like a few minutes later, they're like, there was a kids festival on base or some shit like that. And they had a bouncy house and it got blown over and like a kid and a teacher broke their arms. And it was just like, that's a very light example of like how bad it could be. It's not like if like, I'm not going to say worst case scenario, but just another example would be like, oh, because the warning wasn't out on time, the airfield didn't go out and tie down the jets or put them in the hangar so an F-35 got blown into the fucking school on base and everyone died, and then the bombs all went off, and then now there's a chain detonation of nuclear explosions going on across the western
Yeah.
frontier or
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
I had another like kind of it's also one of those things where you don't really get feedback in real time. Like that's a rare example actually is when you get that like, hey, something bad happened.
Yeah.
But it's like when you do something right, no one fucking cares. Like the weather guy gets the weather right, no one complains. They're like, all right, cool. Well, and then if you're wrong, everyone hates you. So like I think it was like really early in my job, I don't know, I issued like a wind or freezing rain warning or something like that somewhere remote that no one cares. I was like, there's probably not even people there, but it's my job. And then like 6 months later during my evaluations, like somebody was like, oh, that day, like there was a nuclear convoy driving through the mountains with bombs on the truck and they stopped, pulled off the road, tied down the trucks and secured the bombs so they didn't get blown over off the mountain and kill everyone. And you did that. And I'm like, I don't know that. That's pretty neat, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but I mean, I think you look back, I mean, I don't want to talk out of my ass on this, but I think that you can obviously look at that and say that it's to save lives, to not cause that added stress. I mean, you look back to, like a book like Ender's Game or whatever, the whole reason he is able to stop the alien colony is because he thinks he's just playing a video game,
Right.
And so
But War
it is,
Games, you ever
War
saw that?
Games. Yeah. Again. Yeah. War Games, a film. Yeah.
Um, so do you think you're done with school, or are you gonna try to like go get a master's in something related, or
I mean,
what do you do? Like I don't know what you do in theater other than just work, or write plays. Like
that's the thing. That's the thing I'm kind of realizing is, as a person like myself who is a theater artist, but also a multimedia artist, I'm someone who is, applying for game internships. I'm emailing lighting people at game studios. I'm emailing lighting people in live events. And especially with the way I think politically of the world, it just became very clear to me as I was spending. I mean, this last semester of my college, I missed 5 weeks, 5 of 18 weeks. So that's a little less than a third. So in those 5 weeks, I traveled around the country and for weeks at a time was in a state or in a city like New York or Baltimore or wherever, and was going to conferences and stuff, like you would for games, GDC or whatever. We have those in the theater. And I was going to these conferences and meeting people. And, I was doing a lot of auditions and stuff specifically for grad school. And then I was having all of these interviews and talks and callbacks and stuff. And I just kind of realized like, as a young person, these people really don't want me. As a young actor, there's really no jobs for you unless you're a Nepo baby. As a young designer, there's really no jobs for you unless you have work. And then you look down the line and you're like, well, if I make it, why would I go back to graduate school unless it is to teach? So that's what you would do. If you want to teach acting, if you want to teach design, then you go to graduate school. If you want to work like me, if you want to make a difference like me, if you're someone like me who I think has kind of bigger aspirations for the world and what I want to make on it artistically, I just don't see currently how grad school is going to impact that. Besides connections, like I got into the callback phase for NYU's graduate acting program, which is a really big program. If you go to this program, you get a bunch of industry insights. You basically make it, NYU, Juilliard, Yale, all of these huge drama things. You basically make it. They're highly pretentious. But again, now that I'm just looking at it, I'm like, would I really want to go to a program like that and make it that easy? Or would I rather, meet someone like you or meet someone like me, people who I could be like a Kevin Smith with, and then make our Clerks together. And then that's how we make it in the industry. Meet my Matt Damon, that just sounds so much more interesting to me. Meet, my David Lynch and then work with him to get, that just seems like a better choice. It's a very non-easy. There is no, I think back to my friend who I just had an advertising talk with. It seems so easy, right? You just go to portfolio school and then you get a job. But I think what attracts me about the art life is how uneasy and how open it is. There is no box for them to put you in. And if they try to put you in a box, then you should start screaming,
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. Like I just one of the things that I do like about the games industry is that I'm not going to say there isn't one, but it's way up the chain before you get to that like snooty, pretentious shit. Like most people are gamers, at their core, in some facet, they're an artsy type person.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've had a few different friends who've like pursued different art, like college related art type fields or fine art or music or whatever. And I know in my soul I could not deal with all the pretentious political bullshit that goes on in that world. Like just being a painter and like getting into the art gallery scene sounds terrible. It sounds like fucking trash because you have to just pretend to be something you're not or whatever to get along with these other people who have these like made up opinions about what they think is in vogue or proper or whatever.
What's selling, all that shit.
Yeah, and with theater, I'm like, well, how could you have a group of people who all like to act and like basically play pretend all day long, become these like vicious fucking animals that just want to like tear each other apart and all that stuff. And like hearing Chris Guerrero's experience going to Rutgers, I was like, fuck that, dude.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
I told him multiple times while he was going through. I was like, you don't need this. Like, you could be the people who are giving you these problems are not even like successful actors. Like, there's like that those who can't do teach and those who can't teach Jim thing where it's like they're telling you all this shit about what you need to do and what's proper or whatever, and like none of that stuff applies in the real world. Like, I assure you that like Matt Damon was not having those kinds of fucking struggles when he was working with Kevin Smith. He may have had that somewhere else in the acting world, but like the stuff that we actually enjoy and want to do, this is not a problem.
I talked with Chris about his time doing all that stuff, and I unfortunately think Chris is a martyr, for that type of life. I talked with him and he was like, directors were shitty to me, people were shitty to me through a lot of my acting career. And, now he's thinking about leaving the art life, and I mean, that just breaks my heart because I think the more artists we have in the world is, the better the world can be. But at a certain point, yeah. I mean, I totally agree. He's got so much talent.
He will be back. I think it's one of those you lose the battle, but you don't give up on the war kinds of things. And I've known him for a long time. Like, I think he'll take a break for sure, and he should. Like, I think you gotta collect yourself and figure out like why your whys for doing things, and what you're really passionate about. Maybe just like in his case, like because he's my age, like start a family, like do normal people shit, and then come back to it when you have time. Like, you don't have to kill yourself trying to fucking be successful in a very specific kind of way. Like, you can approach this from so many different angles. But yeah, just like I hate the idea of people who would like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, amazing idea like that. Just how many great potential artists of whatever kind are just going to these institutions and like, in his case, like selling 4 years of his life to the government to be able to afford to do it,
Right.
Just to get there and have all of their dreams just crumbled up in front of them because somebody has like a weird political problem with masculine dudes with mustaches or whatever. And like, I don't know.
Yeah. It was so weird. And it is very hard to hear um, vets going through that because I mean, I have met many vets who, like you're saying, will sell themselves for 4 years in order to get the opportunity. I think a lot of, like you're saying, like a lot of vets do end up um, coming out of it with great careers. Like Adam Driver or all
Oh,
those
yeah.
great people you were saying. Um, but I mean, it is tough. It's not it, and I think at the beginning of this conversation, I had talked about how people are kind of secretive and they don't tell you a specific path, for this life. And I think the reason is because life gets in the way of the work for this type of work. So, and you have to be, I think the way to adapt with it is to adapt and to be fluid and to, all these people, I just got out of school with all these people who are like, I just want to work in the theater. I just want to do this. I just want to do that. When I'm like, dude, I feel like you'd be so much better as an architectural renderer, and then through that, learning things to bring back to the theater. Or I think about myself and I'm like, man, I love video game lighting so much. I mean, I watch every Digital Foundry video. I look at all these, I read essays on physically based rendering and all this shit. And I'm like, well, why shouldn't I try my hand at lighting rendering, or shadow people, So among many, many other things. And I just think fluidity is the way that we solve the world's problems.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that, like, secretive, not giving people, like, the I don't know, the golden ticket or whatever when they're
Sure.
starting out,
Sure.
I think it's because there is no correct answer to
Sure.
the question. It's like, "What do I need to do to be successful?" And it's like, the only advice that anyone can give you is what they've experienced. So if your path to success was going to college and doing exactly everything that you've described, and then eventually you end up, I don't know, on some crazy, like, movie set or, like, producing Broadway or doing the lighting for Nine Inch Nails, whatever the fuck it is, you're just gonna have your own individual, like, "Well, I did these steps." And for me, like, I have people come to me all the time, like, "How do I get into the games industry?" Or, "What do I need to do to get a job in the games industry?" And the only honest advice I can give them is, like, you kinda just have to, uh, like you said, be really versatile and, like, be really open-minded, but you also there's no way I could tell you to do what I did because you
Mhm.
couldn't do what I did. Like, you will not be presented with the same set of challenges and opportunities that I was. I didn't do anything conventional by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't go to I took 1 semester of game design school, and I decided that it was a waste of my time because, like, it was taking away time that I could be working on games. Like,
Yeah.
literally, I was like,
Yeah.
"This
Yeah.
is I'm taking a fucking pre-calculus class or whatever when I
Yeah.
could be actually actively working in the games industry right now." And
That's exactly what I felt when I was looking at MFA programs, because I was like, why would I take another 4 years out of my young life, right? Or
yeah,
another 3 years out of my young life where I have all these crazy ideas? Why would I not wanna now fail on a huge scale, but learn so much? I mean, that just seems so much better than me than I mean, we haven't even opened up the can of academia
mm,
bullshit, which is exactly like you're saying, is all, this funder needs this, to get this scholarship, you need these many credits. To get this certification, it's like, man, fuck this. I
yeah,
wanna
for
work.
what?
I wanna work. Yeah.
Yeah. I genuinely, the way I do business, it's just like, "You seem like you could be useful," like,
Yeah.
give him a chance, who cares? Like, what we'll see what happens, and that's so much better. Like, for I'm not gonna diminish the entirety of, like, the academic structure and, like, the learning that happens along the
Of
way and
course, of
everything,
course.
but I will say, there's a lot of people who, I'll just use the military example. I knew a lot of second lieutenants who had MET degrees who couldn't do the weather, and then I had, like, a 19-year-old from fucking Chicago who couldn't fucking, I don't know, like, tell you who the president was during 9/11. but could do the weather better than this second lieutenant with a med degree.
Right.
And that it just, there's so many different paths to being good at something or being successful at something or whatever. And like having someone tell you, you need to check off all these boxes before I'll even consider you is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even when you're applying for jobs, kiddos out there, when you're filling out your resumes and shit, like you don't need to, like, if the resume says like you need 4 years of experience doing this and this and this and that, probably don't. You probably just need to be impressive in the interview phase. So just lie. Or say whatever you have to do to get into the interview. And once you've like charmed the people and made them think that you're a likable person, they're probably more willing to want to work with you. Like I would much rather work with someone who's like a blank slate but cool to work with than someone who thinks they know everything. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
But
I totally feel that. I just had this interview where actually I was going to work with 9 Inch Nails as a lighting technician.
yeah.
But I didn't get the job, you know. And it was because I think I didn't do my research for that company. And the company was only interested in technical people. They said, what are your goals in the industry? Because I have a great technical resume. And they said, what are your goals for the industry? And I said, well, I want to be a designer. And they said, well, we can't do that. We only want technicians. So I think in addition to what you're saying, it's not just being a blank slate or, you know, ruling the interview. But in order to rule the interview, you need to, you know, also understand the job and understand what it means to get the job and then explore, you know, once you get the job.
Sure. And honestly, you probably didn't want that fucking job.
I agree.
If that's all they want you to do is just be sit in this lane for the rest of your life and do what we tell you to. It doesn't sound very full. Even though it's on paper sounds really cool, like, oh, 9 Inch Nails, all that stuff. I get to meet Trent. You probably don't even get to meet Trent.
No.
You know,
No.
that's like, there's so much stuff like that I've like ran into, you know, just people who want to like go apply at a specific video game company. I'm like, why do you want to work for that company? And they're like, well, they made this game or whatever. And I'm like, did you look into like what it's like to work at that company, what their culture is, what their like salaries are, any of that stuff? And like a lot of times people don't think. It's okay when you're younger, you don't think about these things, but like I found myself in a situation where I had like several different options, and it was like I could stay. I was getting out of the Air Force. I could stay here in the States and, you know, basically just be like a remote contractor for this one American company. I could go to Poland maybe, because I had kind of a friend who was the head of a studio there who I was like, hey, you know, what would it be like? And then I could go to like Denmark. And there were multiple facets, but just alone, like one of the considerations I made was like, okay, what will my starting salary be? If I if I stay in America, I'm going to get lowballed because we're Americans.
Yeah.
So that's not good. If I go to Poland, I'll get paid in Polish money. And if I ever want to leave Poland, I'll have to move out of Poland making Polish money.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do. If I go to Denmark, I'm going to make more money than I ever thought I would ever make in my life. And then if I want to leave Denmark, the next job that I take, let's just say I was going to go look for another job. If were leaving this Polish company or leaving this American company, and I'm like, well, my last job paid me $40,000 a year, so, you know, but I'm looking for a bit more. I'm having to negotiate out of a hole. But I'm like, if I start here, the next company that like, so, you know, what's your going rate? I'll be like, well, the last job I had was this. And another piece of advice I would give you is that, like, if you have friends who are business people, when they give you a job offer, it doesn't say fake job offer on the top. So if you ask someone to like give you something with like a company letterhead that says like, we're interviewing for this position with this salary rate, and then you go to another company and they offer you an amount of money that's lower than that number, and you say, oh, well, I got this bigger offer, so it's not that I don't want to work with you, it's just that I can't turn this down. And you'll be surprised how much you can negotiate yourself up. And I actually did do that. It's like 2 different friends like write me, like not really fake job offers, but I was just like, if I came to work for you, what would that salary look like? And then when I go talk to someone else, I'm just gonna see where I land with that.
Right.
And it's just being proactive about that kind of stuff and being smart about like what other than just what you want to do is like what kind of lifestyle do you want to be living? Because you probably don't want to work for Larian Studios because I've heard it sucks dicks to be on a 24-hour schedule. You definitely don't want to work for Blizzard Activision because I heard they drink your breast milk and jack off on you. You don't want to work for, I've just heard that. I don't know. It's a rumor.
These are things we've
going on.
heard. These are things we've
Yeah, like there's all these things to consider other than just like what do I want my job title to sound like or whatever.
Yeah, right.
No, man, I think we're getting close to your heart out.
Yeah, my
But,
hard. I'm getting hard already, man.
No, it's been really, really cool to like actually. Hey, last time we talked, it was just kind of like a get to know you, but to dive into this shit. I have something I need to talk to you off the air about.
Okay.
So we should wrap this up, and then I'll do
Let's
that.
wrap it.
Okay. Yeah. Mwah. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. That was really cool. I love talking about wrestling and other things. Thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. Shannon, Ant, Michael, Fred, Brad. You're amazing. If you would like to be mentioned in that list of names, you can. Go to inthekeep.com/support. There are many different ways other than just, throwing money at us or whatever. So, but you can do that. I won't be mad at you. Make sure you're following us on all the stuff. We're on X. We're on LinkedIn, Blue Sky. Join our Discord, discord.inthekeep.com. Be part of our little community where we talk about whatever you want, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I love y'all. God love you. Stay in the keep. Mwah. Let's take a moment to talk about Appalachia TCG. Whether you're searching for sports cards, Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood, Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh!, they can offer you an extensive selection to suit every collector and competitor. As an official reseller, they are committed to providing authentic booster packs, singles, accessories, and rare finds that set them apart from competitors. They buy and sell lots of trading cards and toys, but their special is the Flesh and Blood trading card game, and they run official events, pre-releases, and more. Along with their ever-growing community, Appalachia TCG is the premium spot for trading, buying, and selling cards. I know what you're thinking, but I don't live in Eastern Kentucky. Well, that's the best part. You can shop online and in person. There is the official TCG player shop, eBay store, and online shop. Head on over to AppalachiaTCG.com. That's AppalachiaTCG.com. Tell them In the Keep sent you.
Hi, I'm Ben, host of the Field and Foley podcast. Every episode I sit down with incredible guests. Not just sound designers, field recorders, or musicians, but experts in everything about audio. We explore the creative process behind the sounds that shape our favorite games, films, and experiences. Whether you're an audio professional or just someone who loves great sound, Field and Foley offers deep dives, behind-the-scenes stories, and insights you won't hear anywhere else.